and welcome back to Storytime with YDRC. My name is Joanna, and today we are going to be continuing Geronimo, Stilton, and Creepella von Cacklefur in The Ghost Pirate Treasure. Now, if you guys haven't already seen the first part, I highly recommend you do that first so you are caught up to where we are now. And of course, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about this channel if you haven't already. Now, let's get started. Advice and hiding places. Creepella dashed out of the office without even saying a goodbye to Professor Doubloon. Billy followed. Creepella, where are we going? He asked. To see Professor Cleverpaws, of course, she replied. Another pirate expert? Billy asked. Creepella shook her head. No, we don't need another pirate expert right now, she said. We need to discover who dug those holes. They are the key to this mystery. Creepella began to climb the moldy steps that led to the top of a tall turret. Professor Cleverpaws is an expert on hiding places, she explained. I want to show her a photo of the holes. Maybe she can figure out who dug them. When they reached the top of the steps, Billy read the plaque on the door. Professor Cleverpaws, discoverer and analyst of hiding places of all kinds. Expert follower of trails, tracks, and paw prints. I was her best student, Creepella revealed proudly before knocking on the door. Who's there? Asked the voice from inside. An instant later, an athletic-looking rodent opened the door. She wore a huge pair of binoculars around her neck. Creepella, is that you? She asked. My exceptional snooper student. Are you here to do some research? Is this your assistant? Actually, I'm Billy Squeakspear, Billy told her. I'm a writer. Nice to meet you, said the professor. Come in. Creepella and Billy followed the professor into her study. The room was filled with binoculars, flashlights, and other instruments that could be used to search for hidden places. We're looking for a treasure, Creepella explained, but we're not the only ones looking for it. I believe a professional digger is after the treasure. Creepella handed Shivering's camera to the professor. Professor Cleverpaws zoomed in on a photo and examined it carefully. You're right, she said finally. This is the work of a professional, and I think I know who it is. Mission incomplete. Back at Squeakspear Mansion, Kafka the cockroach was still groaning from his tummy ache. Shiverine felt sorry for the poor bug, so she decided to tell him a story. Once upon a time, there was a big spider. It lived all by itself in the cemetery, inside the trunk of an old tree. They're wrapped up in the story, whispered a voice from behind the bushes. Let's go now. Then, Tilly, Millie, and Lily, the Rattenbaum triplets, tiptoed out from behind the bush. Something else followed them, moving very slowly. The leaves crackled under the creature's many feet. Ziggy, be quiet, Tilly hissed at the creature, a large millipede, which followed the girls wherever they went. The triplets hopped into their old beat-up car. Ziggy slowly climbed into the back seat and Millie sped away. Soon, the shadow of Rattenbaum Mansion loomed on the horizon. The formerly grand house looked like it was falling apart. I knew it! He's here, said Tilly. I knew it! He's waiting, added Millie. I knew it! What now? Asked Lily. At the gate of the old building stood the odd shape of Shamley Rattenbaum, as still as a statue. He wore a tattered suit and a collapsed top hat. When he saw the triplets, he opened his arms wide. My sophisticated, lovely, enchanting granddaughters, he cried. What good news have you brought your grandfather today? The triplets slowly got out of the car, but none of the girls answered him. My dearest triplets, please tell me, Shamley said. Mission accomplished? Actually, began Tilly. Mission, continued Millie. Incomplete, finished Lily. What did you say? Shamley roared furiously. You didn't find the treasure? The triplets huddled together. No treasure, said Tilly finally. Millie chimed in. In fact, we found only an empty can, finished Lily. Unbelievable, cried Shamley. Ziggy is a professional digger. How could you have failed? Tilly, Millie, and Lily defended themselves. We worked all night. Maybe that story you heard is false. Maybe the truth is that there is no treasure. Shamley got angry. What do you mean it's not true? A respectable gentle mouse at the Snob Society Rodents Club told me the tale. He said that Morgan Blackwhiskers left a treasure there for Lady Squeakspear. Maybe someone else found it, Millie suggested. Impossible. We would have heard about it, Shamley pointed out. Now go back to Squeakspear Mansion and keep looking. The triplets tried to protest. But no, if... Their grandfather cut them short. No excuses. Get moving and don't come back with empty paws. We can't invite anyone over for a high society feast unless we can make some minor repairs to the mansion. So here we have a little information on Ziggy the Millipede. His job is he is the official companion to the Rattenbaum triplets. His original home is in the Moccasin Mountains. How old is he? Old enough to buy shoes in adult sizes. Notable quirks. He has several thousand pairs of shoes. His favorite things are designer footwear, but he'll buy shoes on sale if they're comfortable. His favorite styles is, for the summer, clogs, sandals, and flip-flops. For the winter, wool socks and ski boots. At home, he always wears slippers. His strengths are that he is an excellent digger and he always finishes a job. His weaknesses is that he has a short attention span and tires easily. A very crowded garden. Back at the academy, Professor Cleverpaws had identified the digger immediately. Ziggy the Millipede, her ex-assistant. Ziggy had left the academy to work for the Rattenbaums. Looks like those bratty triplets are behind this mystery, Creepella exclaimed as she and Billy walked back to the hearse. Billy, let's go back to your mansion. We have to find the treasure before those three do. I want to be the first to see Blackwhiskers appear. The Turbo Rapid 3000 roared into Billy's driveway right as the Rattenbaum's old car pulled up, trailing big puffs of gray exhaust. Rats and bats, Creepella said with a frown. Those snobby pretenders are here already. The triplets immediately circled Billy, showering him with fake compliments. Well, well, said Creepella, eyeing them carefully. What brings you here? The three mice barely looked up. Ugh, the annoying one is here too, said Tilly. So irritating, said Millie. And creepy, said Lily. Of course I'm here, Creepella snapped. And I've got some certain news about a certain hole digger, you know. The triplets looked alarmed. We don't know what you're talking about. At that moment, Ziggy crawls out of their car, looking sleepier than ever. There he is, Creepella cried, pointing to the millipede. He dug all of the holes in Billy's yard. Nonsense, insisted Millie. He's Ziggy, our pet millipede. He doesn't know anything about your holes, Tilly blurted out. Besides, you don't have any proof, declared Lily. I'm sure you three are behind this, Creepella argued, and now you've come back to dig some more. That's stealing, you know. Absolutely not, Tilly cried. We're here to invite Billy to be our date, continued Millie, to the melancholy grand ball, finished Lily. Creepella got angry again. Back off! Everyone knows that Billy is escorting me to the ball. Shivering ran up before an argument could begin. There you are, Auntie. Kafka is much better. Look. The von Cacklefur cockroach was trotting all over the yard, happy to be feeling better. He was having fun exploring the holes, and his tummy didn't hurt anymore. In fact, he was hungry. He sniffed around for something to munch on. Kafka came out of a hole with something in his mouth, but it wasn't something he could eat, so he trotted up to Creepella and dropped the object at her feet. Arf, 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 Kafka barked. What did you find, Kafka? The hole digger unmasked. The object that Kafka placed at Creepella's feet was not a twig. She picked it up and examined it. Rats and bats, she exclaimed. This is a little shoe. What would a shoe be doing in my yard? Asked Billy. The triplets exchanged nervous glances and quickly walked backward. Creepella picked up Kafka. Where did you find it, little one? She asked him. Kafka pointed at one of his antennae at the deepest hole in the yard. Arf, arf, arf! Bitewing translated for Billy, who was the only one who didn't understand Arfis, Kafka's language. He found it in that hole down there, the bat said. Creepella placed Kafka back on the ground and examined the shoe with the eye of a detective. She brushed the dirt off it to reveal a number on the sole, 822. Creepella approached the millipede. Ziggy was as pale as a ghost and trembling like a dry leaf. Ziggy, ziggy, zig, zig, zig? Creepella asked in millipede language. Ziggy, ziggy, zig, 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 mumbled Ziggy. Creepella gave him a kind smile. Ziggy! Billy was amazed. Creepella, you understand him? Of course, she replied. Everybody knows Millipedese. Look here. Creepella gently turned Ziggy onto his back and began to count the numbers on the soles of his little shoes. 820, 821. Look here, what a coincidence. His missing shoe is number 822, she exclaimed, pointing to one tiny bare foot. Meanwhile, the triplets were trying to make a hasty retreat to their car. Shiverine noticed their attempted escape. Look, Auntie, the Rattenbombs are getting away, she cried. Stop right there, Creepella shouted. This shoe is proof that your millipede dug all these holes. Poor thing. He told me you promised you'd increase his food to a full loaf of moldy bread a day. Tell me, what were you looking for? Perhaps a treasure? How dare you, protested Millie. Ziggy must have done it all on his own, said Tilly. We don't know anything about pirate loot, added Lily. Creepella crossed her arms and smiled slyly. Why did you use the word pirate? She asked. I didn't say anything about pirates. The three mice turned as pale as mozzarella. They picked up Ziggy and shoved him into the back seat of his car. Let's get away from this riffraff, accusing us of digging holes. We have better things to do. How do you think Grandfather will take it? Asked Tilly as she climbed into the car. This means there will be no feast for tonight's melancholy grand ball, added Lily. No one will want to escort us to the grand ball either, sighed Millie. Where's the treasure? The Rattenbaum's car stalled and sputtered. Shiverine had time to talk to Ziggy through the window. Here, take this, she whispered, handing him a small package. It's Kafka's candy. He's very happy to give it to you. Besides, he didn't realize you were doing anything wrong. Ziggy, Ziggy, gurgled Ziggy gratefully. Then he licked Shiverine's nose. Those three are so dishonest, said Creepella as the car drove off, shooting out puffs of smoke. At least they won't be able to find the treasure. Bitewing flew around her head. By the way, where's the treasure? Where's the treasure? Where's the treasure? Creepella thoughtfully twirled a strand of her long black hair around her finger. She began walking around the garden, talking out loud. Maybe they were looking in the wrong place, she mused. Blackwhiskers always buried his treasures, right? Shiverine and Billy nodded. Then the yard must be where the treasure is hidden, Creepella reasoned. Maybe the holes weren't deep enough. Billy moved to follow her, but he tripped in a hole. He fell into a big old fountain, hidden by a prickly thorn bush, landing in the murky water. Splash! Oh, Billy, you can be so clumsy sometimes, Creepella scolded him. Silly Billy, Bitewing teased. Billy climbed out of the fountain, dripping wet. Actually, there's something... Quiet, please, Billy, Creepella said. I'm trying to think. But I see something under... Billy stammered. Shiverine interrupted him this time. She pointed to the top of his head. What's that on your head? A frog? A frog with a gold coin in his mouth, Creepella announced, shocked. She carefully climbed into the fountain and felt along the bottom with her paw. Just as I thought, she cried. There's something peculiar under here. That's exactly what I've been trying to tell you, Billy said. But Creepella wasn't listening. With a sigh, Billy reached into the old fountain and pulled up a heavy old treasure chest made of metal. I was right, Creepella cried. The treasure of Morgan Blackwhiskers. Stop talking and open it up, Bitewing urged impatiently. What a fortune, this fortune. Yes, please, open it, Shiverine said eagerly. Creepella forced open the rusty old lock. The lid creaked as she lifted it up. "Rats and bats!" she cried. "There's a fortune inside!" Gold coins overflowed from the chest. Each one was stamped with the image of a gentle mouse wearing a wig and crown. "Who's the dude on the coin?" asked Shivereen. "King Mousehard the Fourth," answered Creepella. "He ruled over Mysterious Valley 400 years ago." Bitewing took one of the coins and bit it. "Ouch! There's no doubt! It's made of gold! Wonderful gold!" Creepella pulled a yellow sheet of paper out of the chest. She read it aloud. "I gathered this bounty of coins during my many pirate adventures. I'd like to give all of it to the lovely, delicate, and adorable Lady Squeakspear as a token of thanks. She gladdened the later years of my life with her precious friendship. Sincerely, Morgan Blackwhiskers." "How romantic," sighed Shivereen, drying a tear. "There's something else written, but it's hard to read," Creepella said, frowning. She wrinkled her nose and continued. "I forgot. Old age has dimmed my memory. I can never remember where I hide my things. If Lady Squeakspear doesn't find this chest, the treasure will be inherited by her grandchildren, or great-grandchildren, or her great-great-great-grandchildren, or whomever finds it, as long as that mouse bears the Squeakspear name." "Did you hear, Billy?" Shivereen asked, her voice rising with excitement. "The treasure is yours!" I can't believe it," Billy stammered, turning red. "Of course, all of these coins were stolen by Blackwhiskers all those years ago," Creepella pointed out. "And since there is no way to return them, you'll simply have to give the money away." But, Billy persisted. "I suggest that you set up a scholarship for young deserving rodents at the Chivalry Arts Academy," she said, ignoring him. Billy sighed. He knew that in his heart that Creepella was right. "You could put up a statue of Morgan Blackwhiskers in Plumeria Square," Creepella went on. "I think Lady Squeakspear would have liked that." "It's a great idea," Billy said reluctantly. Bitewing flew around the chest, curious. "Do any of you smell something peculiar?" Creepella sniffed the air. "You're right," she agreed. "That box has a heavenly smell. Maybe there's something underneath the coins." She plunged her paw into the coins and took out a yellowish object covered in green mold. The smell was so strong that Billy fainted on the spot. But Creepella adored the odor. "It's cheese aged to perfection. I'd say it's aged for at least 400 years. Look at how beautifully moldy it is," Shivereen exclaimed. Billy woke up feeling wobbly and queasy. "I'd say it's monstrously moldy," he said. Then a little worm popped out of the cheese. He looked very old, and he had a long beard and glasses. "What's that?" whimpered Billy nervously. "It's an old worm, of course," Creepella answered. I wonder if this cheese is just what Chef Stewart needs." "Hooray!" cheered Shivereen. "It's the extra special ingredient for special melancholy stew." But do you really think that eating cheese 400 years old is a good idea?" stuttered Billy, holding his nose closed. "Of course," Creepella replied. "Let's bring it to him pronto." A horridly delightful dinner. "Superb! Sublime! Super!" exclaimed Chef Stewart after he tasted a crumb of the moldy antique cheese. The disgusting stench of the cheese soon spread through the castle, making the residents ferociously hungry. "Hold up, chompers," warned Creepella as the meat-eating plant dove into the bubbling stew with a spoon. "That stew is for tonight's feast." That night, everyone in Cacklefur Castle got ready for dinner. The ancient building had never looked so gloomy. Grandmother Crypt had covered the furniture with shimmering cobwebs, giving the room a beautiful ghostly look. Before sitting down to the feast, Boris von Cacklefur read his poem, Dark and Dreary Tombs. Dark and Dreary Tombs by Boris von Cacklefur, famous poet. "Oh, dark and dreary tombs, stinky is your smell. Any mouse who enters will not long there dwell. Dusty and dreary, and yet so delightful. Damp, dank, and dark, full of horrors so frightful. Oh, dark and dreary tombs, resting place of mine, no place on earth is so dreadfully nice." "What a poet! What a genius! What a wordsmith!" Everyone praised Boris's poem. Then they all dug into Chef Stewrat's special melancholy stew. But when Billy had his first bite, he immediately turned green and started to feel sick and queasy. "Excuse me, please," he said, standing up. "I really don't feel well at all." "Don't be modest, Billy. You look great," Creepella exclaimed. "That green will match your costume perfectly. Now, let's get ready for the ball." Billy and Creepella changed into their costumes. They looked ghastly. "You too look fabulously frightening," declared Shivereen. Here they are, dressed as a plant and a garbage can. A surprising guest. Billy was having a hard time moving around in his garbage can costume. He tripped 3 times trying to jump inside the Turbo Rapid 3000. "Billy, you look fantastic as a garbage can," Creepella said as she took off at top speed. The entrance to the Shivery Arts Academy was draped with purple funeral lights and flickering lamps. "What a delightfully dreary party," Creepella whispered dreamily. The courtyard was overflowing with costumed rodents. They were dressed as mummies, vampires, witches, ghosts, ghouls, various monsters, and one garbage can. The Rattenbaum triplets were there too. They tried to look glamorous, but instead they looked comical. Millie's dress was too long, Tilly's was too short, and Lily's was too large. Pesky little spiders dangled from their wigs, tickling their snouts. Ziggy, the millipede, came with them, and he wore a top shoe on each one of his 1,000 tiny little feet. "What a heavenly little sight," cooed Creepella. Poor Billy didn't agree. The guests kept dumping their garbage into his costume. The can got so heavy that he couldn't move. So here they are at the party, looking a little foolish because their dresses don't fit. He sat on a bench and watched Creepella dance with Ziggy. Finally, Creepella came back to him. "It's an unforgettable party," she sighed. Then she frowned. "There's only one thing missing, the visit of a nice ghost I could interview. I wonder what Blackwhiskers is waiting for. We found the treasure. Isn't he supposed to appear?" Suddenly, a cold wind whipped around Creepella and Billy. Then, a ghost with a long black mustache and a black beard appeared in front of them. It was Morgan Blackwhiskers. "I heard that somebody took my treasure," he said crossly. "Who is it?" Creepella clapped her paws with happiness. "Mr. Blackwhiskers! It was my Billy who found your treasure. Right, Billy?" The poor Billy had fainted. He was sprawled on the ground, surrounded by all the garbage from his costume. "Billy, why do you always faint just when things get exciting?" Creepella asked, shaking her head. Then she turned to the pirate ghost. "That's Billy Squeakspear. He's related to your friend Lady Squeakspear." "A Squeakspear?" exclaimed the ghost, remembering everything. "Then my treasure is in good paws." "Of course," declared Creepella. "Now, can we go somewhere a little more quiet, Mr. Blackwhiskers? I'd like to have a nice interview with you." And that is the end. Another bestseller. Once again, Creepella's new book got rave reviews. Fans from all over sent letters, text messages, and emails, and made phone calls to the Rodents Gazette, asking for another horror story right away. Can you believe that the book's biggest fan was my grandfather William Shortpaws? One morning, he burst into my office thundering, "Don't be such a lazy bones, grandson! What are you waiting for? When will you publish Creepella von Cacklefur's next book? She is the most awesome horror novelist in all of Mysterious Valley." "I don't have a clue," I told him. "I never know when my friend will drop a book on my desk." But my grandfather kept asking me when the next book would come out. He called me 5 times a day. And when Benjamin and Bugsy Wugsy visited me in my office, they seemed disappointed that I didn't have a new Creepella story for them. Even the little mouselets who came to buy Creepella's books asked the same question. I finally decided to send my friend this message. "Right, Creepella! Right! We're all waiting for your new bestseller." Geronimo Stilton, editor of the Rodents Gazette. And that is the end of Geronimo Stilton and Creepella von Cacklefur in Ghost Pirate Treasure. So I hope you guys enjoyed the ending, and if you did, don't forget to shoot us a like, subscribe, and tell your friends all about this channel if you haven't already. Alrighty, that's all for today. So, bye. See you in the next one.